When a corporation defaults, the legal code offers a shield. The academic debate over this shield is sharply divided. Does bankruptcy protection encourage loaded companies to overinvest, or does it save perfectly viable firms from being liquidated by a panicked market? The literature is split. The Gertner and Scharfstein camp models bankruptcy as a driver of overinvestment. Opposing them, scholars like Baird, Harris, and Raviv model Chapter 11 as a necessary brake against the inefficient dismantling of good assets. Robert Mooradian's 1994 paper argues that both camps are looking in the wrong place. By exclusively studying the firms that actually file for bankruptcy, they miss the architecture of the system. The true impact of Chapter 11 happens entirely off-stage. It acts as a silent gravitational force, dictating the terms of private, out-of-court debt restructurings for everyone else. Think of an out-of-court restructuring as a masquerade. A viable, efficient firm and a doomed, inefficient firm enter the negotiation wearing identical masks. Management knows exactly which firm they are. The bondholders sitting across the table see only the masks. Uninformed bondholders cannot force management to reveal its true economic health. To separate the viable from the doomed, the legal system requires a mechanism that makes the imposter voluntarily choose to unmask itself. We anchor this problem on a strict two-period timeline. At time 1, the firm holds a specific amount of liquid cash, Y, and faces a critical investment project costing I. That project will only pay off at time 2. We define financial distress with a rigid boundary. The firm's liquid assets, Y, are worth less than the total face value of its outstanding debt, D. A fraction of that total debt is due immediately. We label that immediate slice Q times D. The remainder waits until time 2. This chart shows the difference between a good firm and a bad firm. In mathematical terms, the good firm's payoff distribution exhibits first-order stochastic dominance over the bad firm's. If you shift the entire probability curve rightward, the good firm is consistently more likely to hit higher cash flows at any given threshold. Economic efficiency demands a simple rule. The good firm expects to earn more than the cost of the project, so it must invest. The bad firm expects to lose money on the project, so it must liquidate immediately. To set the trap for the bondholders, we apply a strict mathematical constraint to the total market. The aggregate investment across all distressed firms represents exactly zero net present value. Here is the economic reality of that equation. If bondholders randomly select a firm from the crowd without any insight signal, their prior belief is that the firm is worth exactly its current cash. This zero net present value assumption guarantees that the bondholders' prior assumptions carry zero informational value. They are completely blind to the firm's true type. To see what Chapter 11 accomplishes, we must first erase it. Assume we live under a strict legal regime. Bankrupt firms are immediately liquidated, and the absolute priority rule dictates that equity gets wiped out to zero before creditors lose a dime. Any attempt to restructure debt out of court is governed by the Trust Indenture Act. This law prohibits majority voting on payment terms. Every individual public debt holder must independently agree to take a haircut. This creates the classic holdout problem. Imagine the debt is sliced into $1 claims. If the firm offers a reduced payout to survive, a rational bondholder will refuse the offer and hold on to their original claim. If all the other bondholders agree to the haircut, the firm avoids default. The holdout is then legally guaranteed to receive their full immediate cash slice, Q, at time 1, effectively jumping ahead of the bondholders who compromised. The math of the free rider problem is absolute. Because the holdout always captures a higher relative payoff, no individual bondholder is willing to be the one who tenders. Bondholders will only accept an exchange offer if they are certain the total value of the firm exceeds the total obligations due today. The holdout problem acts as a rigid gatekeeper. Without perfect certainty of the firm's solvency, the collective bondholders will reject any attempt to renegotiate. Let's apply that gatekeeper to a firm that is flow insolvent. Its cash on hand is less than the debt due today. A good firm in this position might possess massive future value, but because of the zero information trap, it has no credible way to prove that future value to the bondholders. Signaling is impossible here. If the restructuring fails, the firm goes into strict liquidation, and the absolute priority rule ensures the equity holders receive exactly zero. Because the bad firm faces that exact same zero payoff in liquidation, it has nothing to lose. Mimicking the good firm's restructuring offer costs the bad firm absolutely nothing. The result is a pooling equilibrium. The bad firms perfectly copy the good firms. The bondholders, unable to tell them apart, reject all offers. Both firms are forced into liquidation, and the good firms tragically underinvest in profitable projects. Now look at the inverse. The firm's cash covers its immediate obligations. It is flow solvent. Here, the bondholders know the firm can pay its immediate bills, so they accept the restructuring. But because mimicking is still costless, the bad firms simply hide among the good ones and sign the same paperwork. All firms survive the restructuring. The good firms invest efficiently, but the doomed bad firms survive to inefficiently overinvest in failing projects. In either branch, the social opportunity loss is severe. The market either kills off viable companies, or it throws good money into dead ones. Under strict bankruptcy laws, survival is dictated entirely by immediate cash flow. The legal regime permanently severs the link between a firm's survival and its true economic efficiency. Chapter 11 does not solve this by forcibly unmasking the imposter. Instead, it functions as an architecturally designed side door. Once a firm files for Chapter 11, management is granted two distinct powers: an automatic stay freezing debt collection, and the right to remain in control as the debtor in possession. These powers grant equity a highly valuable option. Management can now threaten to continue making highly inefficient investments, and the creditors cannot immediately stop them or seize the assets. Simultaneously, Chapter 11 solves the holdout problem by imposing majority voting rules, forcing the fractured public debt holders to negotiate as a single coordinated agent. The single creditor bribes management to stop bad investments, creating a negotiated equity payout. The math starts with the bad firm's reservation value, RB. We add equity's fractional bargaining power, gamma. This leverage multiplies the economic surplus saved when the bad firm halts doomed projects. This alters the entire architecture of the game. Because of this negotiated bribe, the equity of a bad firm is no longer worth zero. By guaranteeing equity a positive payout in bankruptcy, mimicking a good firm out in the private market suddenly carries a steep opportunity cost. The management of a bad firm now faces a calculated choice. They can try to mimic the good firm out of court for a meager return, or they can voluntarily file for Chapter 11 to claim their negotiated bribe. The more inefficient the firm's investment project is, the larger the surplus saved by stopping it. As that gap widens, the Chapter 11 bribe becomes mathematically superior to mimicking. This creates a separating equilibrium. The bad firm, acting in its own rational self-interest, voluntarily walks through the Chapter 11 side door. With the imposter gone from the market, the good firm finally signals its true value. Bondholders accept the out-of-court restructuring, and the viable firm continues to operate. Chapter 11 achieves systemic economic efficiency precisely by paying off the worst actors in the market to step out of the way. Looking closely at the empirical reality generated by this model, we see a specific outcome. Chapter 11 is almost entirely populated by inefficient, value-destroying firms. This perfectly aligns with prominent empirical critiques from scholars like Bradley, Rosenzweig, and Hotchkiss. Their data shows bankrupt firms underperforming, liquidations delayed, and entrenched managers destroying value inside the court. The data is accurate, but it describes a system working exactly as designed. Chapter 11 functions as a filter, purposefully drawing inefficient firms out of the private market. It is a textbook case of observational bias. You cannot judge the effectiveness of an institution solely by studying the firms trapped inside it. The true value of Chapter 11 is its invisible shadow, the thousands of out-of-court restructurings that succeed only because the bankruptcy code absorbs the failures. Any legal reform stripping equity of its value in bankruptcy inadvertently destroys this separation mechanism. Take away the bribe, and the imposters will walk right back into the private market, and the masquerade begins again.